So, good morning, students. This is our geography class of grade 10 of CIS Dasua. So, today we shall start our geography's chapter number 4, agriculture. Okay, so please take out your books and page number 34. Page number 34 in geography textbooks. Please take out. Okay, before we start our first topic, that is agriculture, please write down the first question. The question is, what is meant by the term agriculture? Please write down. What is meant by the term agriculture? देखो बच्चों, the topic is agriculture. तो agriculture क्या है? Agriculture is that activity which produces food that we consume. ठीक है? अब agriculture में है क्या? It includes two type of activities. First one is to produce food. Okay? And second one is to produce raw material for the industries. Write down, please. Okay, so these are the two important tasks done by agriculture, done in the agriculture. First one is to produce food that we consume, and secondly to produce raw material in the industries. Okay, now why we are saying that? Why we are saying that it also produces raw material for the industries? Because in agriculture we produce two types of crops. First, crops that are eatable crops like wheat, rice, and all these crops: wheat, rice, jowar, bajra, all these consumable crops. Secondly, agriculture also produces the crops that are used in the industries to produce raw material. Those are not consumed by us. Those are only used in the industries as a raw material. For example, cotton. For example, rubber. Okay, jute. All these crops are used as a raw material in the industries. So both of these crops are grown in agriculture. Okay, so that is why we are saying that agriculture does two parts. It produces food that we consume, and secondly it produces the raw material for the industries. These are the two major works which are done under agriculture. Done. Chalo. Next, types of farming. Please write down second question. What are the types of farming? What are the types of farming? Now I'm going to rub this. ठीक है? Okay. Now write down, please, बच्चों. What are the types of farming? First one. Number one. Primitive subsistence farming. Underline, please. That is primitive subsistence farming. Okay, and secondly, the intensive subsistence farm. Okay, these are the two major types of farming. Besides this, there are also two more types of farming that we shall discuss further. But first of all, these are the two major types of farming. So first of all, we will discuss about this one, primitive subsistence farming. So write down another question. What is meant by the term primitive subsistence farming? Please write down. What is meant by the term primitive subsistence farming? So first of all, we will discuss about this, then we will discuss about this. Okay, so primitive subsistence farming. Okay. देखो बच्चों, अंडरलाइन प्लीज, अंडरलाइन in your textbooks. Primitive subsistence agriculture is practiced on the small patches of land with the help of older techniques, with the help of older methods of farming. Very important line. Whenever we talk about the primitive farming, which this means such type of agriculture that includes the farming, that has older types, that uses older types of techniques. For example, hoe, dow, plows. Okay, these type of older types of techniques are used mostly in primitive subsistence farming. Secondly, there is also very important example and very important state explanation of this primitive farming, that this farming includes a small patch of land. It is not done on very large fields. It is mostly done on small patch of land. Small patch of land. And thirdly, it is mostly done by the family members. Not others are included in it, just like because this farming is mostly done by the small farmers, and they don't have so much money to hire other landless laborers for work. That's why this type of farming is mostly done by the people of the family, or we can say that by their family members. Sorry. Okay, so these are the three major explanations of primitive subsistence farming. It includes older techniques. Okay, it is done on small patch of land. It is done by the family members of small farmers. You can write down this also, family members of small farmers. Okay, so this is known as primitive subsistence farming. I also want to make make a mention of one thing more, that this primitive subsistence farming is mostly based on monsoon. It is not dependent upon the modern techniques of irrigation. Just like if a big farmer is there, he can use tube wells, sprinklers, etc. But as we have discussed, that this is mostly done by the small farmers, and by their family members. That's why they cannot afford such type of modern techniques like tube wells and sprinklers. That's why mostly this type of farming is based on monsoon. Whenever there is good monsoon, there is good production. But whenever there is bad monsoon, there is very less rainfall, then always this type of farming gets affected, and there is very less production in this type of farming. Is that clear? So you can write D option also. I can write here D option. First point, second point, third point. D point आप लिख सकते हो. You can write dependent upon monsoon. This is the D point. First point, second point, third point, fourth point. Dependent upon monsoons. Is that clear? Okay, done, bacho. Dependent upon monsoon. So this is primitive subsistence farming. Now, in other words, we can also say, to primitive farming, we can also say that it is older technique of agriculture. You can say in short that this is an older technique of agriculture, primitive subsistence farming. Is that clear to everyone? Sure. And if you have any doubts now, you can ask me in the classes. Whenever your classes will start, you can ask me your doubts in classes. So first of all, please write down all these topics and also underline these in your books also. Okay. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in your classes whenever your classes will start. Okay. So now the second option. Now the second point. First point हमने कर लिया primitive subsistence farming. Now the second point, intensive subsistence farming. Please see page number 35. Intensive subsistence farming. I am going to rub all this. Is that clear? So. Okay. Now, beta, second point, that is intensive subsistence farming. Okay. Now, beta, we have also written the question that distinguish between primitive farming and subsistence farming. Okay. Now, second point, that is intensive farming. इसके ना नाम से क्लियर हो रहा है, इसके नाम से क्या क्लियर हो रहा है, दैट दिस फार्मिंग इज डन वेरी इंटेंसिवली. This farming is done very intensively means a lot of people are required to do this type of farming. This is not done by small farmers or by the family members of that small farmer. It is mostly done by the big farmers after hiring a lot of people, after hiring a lot of landless laborers, and only then this type of farming can be done. So in other words, you can also say that it is modern technique of farming. It is also can be called as modern technique of farming. You can also say it like this. Just like we have written about primitive farming, that it is an older technique of farming. Similarly, it is a modern technique of farming. Now, if it is a modern technique of farming, that this means that it includes all the modern methods of farming, and that is the reason that it produces a large amount of crop. Okay, so write down first point included in this intensive farming. First point, number one, it includes all the modern methods. It includes all the modern methods of agriculture, like tractors. Okay, tractors and carbine machines, threshers, etc. All this. It includes all the modern methods of farming. You can make the heading also. Modern methods of farming. Tractors, carbine machines, threshers, etc. B option. It is mostly done on a large patch of land on a very big agricultural field. Mostly done on large patch of land. इसको हम लोग आमतौर पे बड़े बड़े खेतों में करते हैं. तो if we are doing it on a large patch of land, then this means it requires a lot of people to do this type of farming. So you can make this third point. Mostly done by the hired laborers. Mostly done by the hired laborers, by the big farmers. Mostly done by the hired laborers. दोबारा से देख लो. Mostly done by the hired laborers, by the big farmers. जो big farmers हैं, they hire landless laborers, and then they do agriculture on their large piece of lands. And if it is mostly done on large piece of land and lot of people are required to do this type of farming, then this means it produces a lot of crop as compared to the primitive farm. Okay, so D option. Now I'm rubbing all this. I think you have written all of this. Okay, so you can see here. I'm rubbing this. If you still have not written, you can pause the video and you can write it. Okay, I'm rubbing this. Number D option. B option, please write down. B option में क्या आएगा इसके बच्चों? Large production. Okay, it produces a large amount of production of crops. Whether these are eatable crops, whether these are the crops for raw materials, just like cotton and all these. So if it is done intensive by the intensive subsistence farming method, then it always produces a large production. Is that clear? So this was the major difference between primitive farming and intensive farming. Is that clear? Also, you can write fifth point also, just like we have written that modern technique. So you can also write that yes, 1 minute. Yes, you can write fertilizers. fertilizers and insecticides and pesticides. These are also used. These are also used to do this type of farming. But this thing is never used in that farming. That is primitive farming, because it is mostly done by the small farmers. So that type of farming, primitive farming, is mostly dependent upon the natural fertility of soil. Okay, mostly dependent upon natural fertility of soil. This is not dependent upon natural fertility of soil. This can be done by using modern fertilizers and insecticides and pesticides, which again helps to produce a large production of crops. Is that clear? Sure. Now I am going to rub all this. Okay? I hope you have written all this. Sorry, the board is small, okay, so space is getting covered. Okay, now, beta, third type of important farming. We have discussed the two major types of farming. Now, third farming is that is the commercial farming. अब इसके नाम से क्लियर हो रहा है. The farming, write down please, the farming that is mostly done for commercial purposes. The farming that is mostly done for commercial purposes, that is to earn money. Such type of farming is known as commercial farming. ठीक है जी. The farming that is done to earn money, that is done mostly to earn money, that is mostly done for commercial purposes, is known as commercial farming. Now if we are doing it for commercial purposes, if my motive, suppose I'm a farmer that is doing commercial farming, my motive is to earn a lot of money from this farming. So I will always use modern techniques. To do this type of farming, so that I can earn more and more from this type of farming. Okay, so we can also write, this is first point. Second point, mostly uses modern techniques of farming. And C option, it is also done on large piece of land. These are the important 3 points of commercial farming. Okay, write down please. Now, but this type was commercial farming. Okay, you can study in your books also, and if you still have any doubts, you can ask me in your classes. Okay, this was commercial farming. Next, fourth type of farming, fourth type of agriculture, that is plantation. देखो बच्चों, when we talk about plantation ना, it is also a type of commercial farming. It is also a type of commercial farming, but the major difference between this and that type of agriculture is this is mostly used to grow a single type of crop. Like we can use we can grow tea and coffee. Tea and coffee. This is known as plantation agriculture. Please write down. This is known as plantation agriculture. It includes tea and coffee. Okay, so plantation is also a commercial farming, and it includes tea and coffee plantations. Done. And again it is done on large piece of lands by hired laborers. Okay, so it is also a part of commercial farming. Again, it uses good techniques, modern techniques of farming. So that is why it is also an important commercial farming. It is an important type of commercial farming which includes tea and coffee. Now states, as you mostly know, that tea is mostly grown in the states of like Assam, and coffee is mostly grown in the state of Tamil Nadu, that includes Nilgiri Hills, etc. You can also write West Bengal up to some extent. The hilly areas of West Bengal, especially. Okay, sure. This was plantation. Next. Now, but I am going to rub this, please. Okay. Let's see the next topic. Next topic, which we are starting the next topic, that is the cropping pattern. Now, if we are discussing about agriculture, we must discuss about the cropping pattern of the crops also, because all the crops are not grown in all the seasons. Every crop is grown in a particular season. So that is why every crop have a particular season in which it can be grown. Otherwise, all the crops cannot be grown in all the seasons. So we must learn about the cropping pattern of the crops also. Okay, how these are sown, how these are grown, when these are sown, when these are grown, when these are harvested. So this is known as the cropping pattern of all the crops. So first of all, we will discuss about all this about the cropping patterns. But I want to tell you that there are mainly three seasons. There are mainly three seasons in which we grow and harvest the crops. First season in which we do the cropping of the crops are: number one, Rabi season. Secondly, we also have Kharif season, and thirdly, we also have another season, that is Zaid season. Okay, these are the major three seasons in which we do harvesting. In which we do cropping and harvesting. Okay, so first of all, we will discuss about this one, Rabi season. But first of all, we will discuss about Rabi season. Now, देखो बच्चों, Rabi season is the season when the crops which are grown at the arrival of winters and harvested before the arrival of summers. Those type of crops are grown in the Rabi season, and that's why those crops are known as Rabi crops. Listen once again. The crops that are grown mostly before the arrival of winters and harvested before the arrival of summers are known as are known as Rabi crops, and that season that is suitable for these Rabi crops is known as Rabi season. For example, you can also use the terms like wheat, barley, peas, gram, and mustard. Wheat, barley, gram, and mustard. Wheat, barley, gram, and mustard. Okay, so these crops are known as Rabi crops, and their season is known as Rabi season. Done. So this was our first season of crops, in which the crops are sown, grown, and at last harvested. So this is the first season of this cropping pattern. First season of this cropping pattern. Secondly, number 2, the second season. The second season is the Kharif season. But I am rubbing this now. B option, that is Kharif season. Now Kharif crops, the Kharif crops are those crops in which the Kharif crops are those crops which are grown during the monsoon season, and harvested before the arrival of winters. Those crops are known as Kharif crops, and their cropping season is known as Kharif season. Listen once again. The crops which are grown before the arrival of monsoons, and harvested before the onset of winters are known as Kharif crops, and their cropping season is known as Kharif season. Okay, and their season is known as Kharif season. Example, you know it well. Paddy. Paddy means rice. Yes, rice. Okay, so paddy. Underline others also: maize, jowar, and bajra. Paddy, maize, jowar, and bajra. Tur, moong, urad, cotton. All these are written in your books. And these are the examples of Kharif crops which are grown in Kharif season. Is that clear? You can underline the examples also: paddy, jowar, and all these. Please underline it in your books also. Written. Now I'm going to rub it, okay? Now the third season. I'm going to rub it now, and now we shall discuss about third season. But the third season is, we have already discussed that, Z season. And please, the crops that are grown during the summer season. The crops that are grown during the summer season are known as Zaid crops, and their cropping season is known as Z season. Again, listen. The crops that are grown during the summer season. The crops that are grown during the summer season are known as Zaid crops. And their cropping season is known as Zaid season. Example, muskmelon. Next, watermelon, cucumber, and all these. ठीक है. Also, you can underline in your books also muskmelon, cucumber, and all these. ठीक है. That are written in your books are known as zaid crops, and their season are known as zaid season. Also, it includes one thing more. Also, zaid crops also include the fodder crops. Please underline. Zaid crops also include the fodder crops. The fodder crop. I think most of you know about what are fodder crops. If you don't know what are fodder crops, I can tell you that fodder crops are those crops which are given to our animals, like cows, buffaloes, goats, horses, donkeys. ठीक है. तो which are given to our cattle are known as fodder crops. So these fodder crops are also known as zaid crops. Which are grown in zaid season. Is that clear? So this is about short explanation about zaid crops. I think you have written it already. So I'm going to rub it now. So next, बच्चों, what are the major crops? Okay, major crops. I think you haven't written a question. Write down some questions also that I should give you. What are the three major? Write down questions, बच्चों, please. What are the three major cropping seasons? What are the three major cropping seasons? Explain them in detail. And you have already written the answer. You have already underlined the answer. That is Rabi season, Kharif season, and Zaid season. Okay, that was the answer. And they can, one thing more, they can ask you this question for 1 marks also. For example, they can ask you, write a short note on, you write briefly about Rabi season. You write a short note about Rabi crops. Write a short note on Zaid crops. Write a short note on Kharif crops. So you can write it in this manner also. For 1 marks or 3 marks or even for 5 marks. Is that clear? So now next topic is बच्चों major crops. Major crops. So what are the major crops? As we are studying about India, we are studying about the agriculture in India. So we shall study about the major crops of India, which are major crops that are grown in India. Okay. Now the major crops. The first major crop that is grown in India is rice. First of all, we shall discuss about rice. Please underline, bachcho. Rice is a staple food crop of a majority of the people of this country, and it is mostly grown it is mostly grown in the high temperatures, that is about 25 degrees Celsius, and with large humidity, and it also requires a lot of annual rainfall. It also requires a very high amount of rainfall, because you all know that the crop of paddy requires a lot of water. That is why it is a kharif crop, as we have discussed. That is why it is a kharif crop, and that's why it is grown mostly during the onset of monsoons. Is that clear? So now we shall discuss about rice, that is paddy. Okay. So first point, you can say that requires a heavy amount of water. We all know that paddy requires a heavy amount of water, and that's why it is we grow it in the monsoon season. Number two, requires high temperature, and you all know that rice or paddy is mostly grown during the time of June, July and August, and in those seasons रेनफॉल इज ऑल्सो देयर, एंड ऑल्सो टेम्परेचर इज वेरी हाई. गर्मी होती है उसमें काफी. ठीक है, तो गर्मी भी काफी होती है, रेनफॉल भी काफी होती है. दैट इज वाई, और ये सारा सीजन, दैट सीजन इज वेरी गुड फॉर द क्रॉप ऑफ राइस और पैडी, एंड दैट्स वाई वी मोस्टली ग्रो दिस खरीफ क्रॉप इन दिस सीजन. Okay, so that's why we are saying that it requires a heavy amount of water. It requires a high temperature also. Okay, done. C option you can also write. if we talk about the heavy amount of water, we can also say that it requires more than 100 to 200 centimeters of rainfall. Okay, you can write all this. Now, thirdly, you can see in your map also, page number 37. Please see page number 37. Page number 37. There is the map of India, and mostly the areas are shown which are the major rice producing states and which are the minor rice producing states. Please see page number 37. Page number 37 in your textbooks. So the areas that are dark green in color, are the major rice producing states of India. So and the areas that are light green in color, these are the minor rice producing states of India. So you can see that if we are talking about rice or paddy, then we can say that the major rice producing states of India are Bihar, West Bengal, Odisha, okay, and the eastern states like coastal Andhra Pradesh, and the eastern states like Odisha, and also the southern states like Andhra Pradesh and the coastal areas of Tamil Nadu also. These southern states also grow the crop of rice or paddy. Okay, so you can write this also. Next is bacho wheat. This one is rice or paddy. Now the second crop, the major crop that is grown in India is wheat. I'm going to rub it now. Wheat. This is again a second most important crop grown in this country, that is wheat. Now, as we all know that wheat is the major food crop of this country. India not only produces a large quantity of wheat, but it also consumes and exports a large quantity of wheat also. That is why wheat is also a very important, very majorly produced crop in this country. So we are now discussing about this crop. So if we talk about wheat, I have told you earlier that wheat is a rabi crop. Wheat is a rabi crop. So if it is a rabi crop, then this means that it is mostly grown. It is mostly grown during the winter or before the arrival of winters. Before the onset of winters. The wheat is mostly grown before the onset of winters. During winters, it gets ripened. So this means that it requires less temperature. Because it is mostly grown during the winters, this means that it requires a less temperature. Also, it requires the annual rainfall of 50 to 75 centimeter annually. Please underline. That is 50 to 75 centimeters of rainfall. That is average rainfall. That is average rainfall. Okay, before the onset of winters. Next, less temperatures, requires less temperature, average rainfall, that is 50 to 75 centimeters. Now, again, which are the major states that produces wheat in this country? Please see page number 39. Page number 39, this is the map given here of wheat producing states of India. Please underline. But these are the areas that are shaded in dark pink color are the major wheat producing states of India. The areas that are shaded in light pink color are the minor wheat producing areas. Please underline the map also, and underline the map of page number 37 also. Both are important maps. Page number 37 and page number 39. Both are important maps. Please underline them. Now D point that the major wheat producing states of India, please underline. We all know that Punjab and Haryana, we all know that. Besides Uttar Pradesh ठीक है जी. And Madhya Pradesh, and these are the major wheat producing states of India. Also there are some minor wheat producing states like upper regions of Bihar and some parts of Gujarat also. These are also the major these are also the minor wheat producing states. But the major wheat producing states of India are Punjab, Haryana, UP. Okay ji. Sure. This was about the wheat crop.